Black joy. Black joy is like sweet potato pie and Thanksgiving family laughter. Black joy is turning the key to that brand new house. Black joy is kissing and cuddling the neck of that precious, sweet newborn grandbaby. Black joy is escaping the lynching and running away, free with Harriet Tubman. Black joy is finally getting that raise you fought for. Black joy is seeing Hidden Figures in Wakanda Forever for the first time. Black joy is hearing the verdict, the final verdict, and seeing Derek Chauvin handcuffed and going to jail. Black joy is playing double dutch in the streets of Harlem after getting free, delicious, sweet old-fashioned, shaved, flavored ices from Uncle Selton's truck on a hot summer day. Black joy is seeing Nina Simone sing, "To be young, gifted, and black," to a group of high school children. And yeah, black joy is sitting on the beach under a coconut tree with the sweet smell of the Caribbean Sea and hearing reggae vibes in the distance while reading poems from Langston Hughes and Maya Angelou and writing a few poems of my own. Black joy is being unapologetically black. Thank you. This is VOW, Voices of Wisdom, the show that might not be for everybody, but everybody needs to watch this show. And today we're going to talk about black joy. And my esteemed guest again today is Dr. Georgette Grier-Key. How are you today, love?
I am just doing great, but I have to give you my snaps for that wonderful poem and
Thank
just
you,
a
thank
little
you, thank
dose of black joy while we get started.
Yes, thank you, thank you, thank you. I'm going to read a little bit regarding, according to Erica Lassan, she's a joy strategist. She said, helping people find joy, purpose, and healing is how we rediscover, reconnect, and recommit to our identities. Her work combines elements of life coaching and career coaching with an emphasis on self-help, identity, and joy. Black women have been conditioned to live for other people. We talked about this earlier. It's the idea that in order for us to be good women, we have to be self-sacrificing. The biggest struggle is healing, letting go of generational trauma, ideals, and ideas, as she says. Joy isn't a selfish act. Joy also allows us to become selfless in a way that transforms the world. Small, intentional acts of kindness and love have the power to shift generations to come. She says part of her mission is to help people understand the need for joy and the ways to access joy in hard times. So black joy. Let's talk about black joy.
Wow. Just even saying the word, we're just like all giddy and,
I
and
know,
we
I
have
know.
these
It has a
smiles.
smile,
Yeah,
right?
right? You can't say a word like joy and not be happy. But to me, I think it's the importance of acknowledging our lives and the intersectionality of our lives. You said that women have, had to play a certain role, and that's true. But why can't I be all of me? Can I be, the artist, the singer, the writer, the professional? And I think that's a part of us being able to look at our whole selves and what
Yes.
makes us happy and what drives us. So I think it's important to acknowledge that. I think it acknowledges the core essence of who we are as a people, whether it's in our food,
Yes.
whether it's in our dress, whether it's in the way we decided to do our hair or our makeup. And looking at the core essence of that, it's telling the complete story. A lot of times when we see our stories, whether it's on TV or in books, it's sometimes incomplete. It starts with tragedy and it ends with tragedy, or it's subjugated to crime or slavery or the Underground Railroad. Like there was nothing else in between.
Yes, yes.
But we created jumping the broom for love because we couldn't get married legally. So there have been always expressions of Black joy that have been openly shared. It's about us being positive. It's about us remembering our history that sometimes isn't great, but it's also celebrating the fact that we have survived,
Yes.
that we have overcome, and that we are our ancestors' wildest dreams.
I never forget being in a group in this room one time, and this thought came to me that, and I ended up actually vocalizing and speaking this out. I think we were in some kind of room we were expressing each other's feelings, etc. And it came to me that basically you and I, our ancestors, survived. We wouldn't be here if they didn't. So that's a joy that we have to now look at. That's a joy of survival, a joy to say that we are a strong people.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I agree, and I think sometimes it's a disposition for me every day. I have made a decision to not let my mornings get away from me with checking on emails,
Yeah, right.
picking the phone up, and you know what? Just be. Have your cup of coffee. We've talked about this even when you're, at your fancy place. I won't say, but having our cup of coffee outside, appreciating the sun, the stars, hearing nature.
Yes.
That's a decision. Like you pick up that phone, next thing you know, you're there for 2 hours.
Absolutely.
So I think for me, wanting to have a whole life and understand myself as a person in that Black joy, it is an active decision.
Absolutely.
Because we can fall back to all of the negativity. And you know what? What they used to tell us growing up, it takes more muscles in your face to frown than it does to smile. I mean, even if you just start talking and you're smiling, all of a sudden you feel a lift. So I think that it's, for me, what it has taught me in the last year, because I've been actively practicing this, is that I have to daily remember the Black joy that I have, that the world can't take away.
Absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. And we continue to, we think about even self-care now. That's part of our joy. We have so much, I guess, not to even, yeah, I'm going to go there. We kind of have a laughter and a place that we can relate to ourselves, and we can just have that joy and come above. We can have a bad day and come home and just really have a joy. It could be music. We have so much great music. We can go back to Marvin Gaye, and we can go back to James Brown. What was James Brown's song?
I'm Black and I'm proud.
Hello, here we go. And even a lot of the songs, even with the song "What's Going On," that was really a great song to really make us feel and make us identify what was going on. But it gave us some kind of oneness to help us identify what was going on, and to say that we can do better. And you mentioned another song earlier.
Well, Beyonce's song, her whole album is all about that Black joy. You can't break my soul. You won't break me. And it even harkens back to, some things that people say. Even if your body is in prison, your mind is not in prison. So when I hear that you won't break my soul, that's what I think about. That we are resilient people, and that we are endeavoring to make sure that our survival is known, that our joy is known. I think in itself, Black joy is radical, right? It's a declaration that we want to share who we are, the wholeness of us, and not just this one-sided person. So looking at who we are. And so again, it is radical because, just think about it. I watched a documentary about Mary J. Blige, believe it or not. And one of the things that stuck with me is that she said growing up that, she had to have this mean mug face walking around a certain community, because if they saw you smiling, they would want to, fight you or harm you or wonder what you're so happy about while they're down and trodden. And so just even that statement that a smile could get someone hurt. And we know previously a whistle, whether it was whistling to a person or not, can get you killed. So I think the fact that we want to exercise our joy through a smile, through a song, through writing, I think it's important that we continue to do that because those very acts have been banned by certain people. And so I think it can be radical in a sense. You know, when they expect you, when you have all kind of turmoil going on in your life, and they expect you to be all down and you refuse. We've had situations like that when we've been at the butt end of something, and they expect us to be, you know, depressed and stressed. Well, you know what? If my ancestors were like that, they would have never had the hopes and dreams that you and I will be sitting here today. And so I feel it's a responsibility for not for only for me to live and survive, but for me to thrive.
Absolutely, absolutely. You know, for some reason, I just went back when they talk about joy, and I went back growing up and playing in the street. You know, I had to be home before dark, but it was such a joy. And you know, what I even think about, you know, and I'm going to go there. I'm exposing myself a little bit. We were on welfare. We had with that nasty powdered milk, and those eggs were disgusting. But we had so much fun. We had so much fun. We played double dutch. We played kickball. We played in the street. We had so much fun. So that was the joy that we had in spite of.
Yeah.
In spite of.
In spite of, and you know what I hear there too, which I think is important too, is the unity. The unity of not just the community, but of the families. And that unity, it's hard to feel as if you're struggling. You know, I see so many stars on TV who say, we were poor, but we didn't know it.
Exactly.
Because,
Exactly.
because there was so much unity, so much love. Um, and again, you know, I've come from a sheltered background in my community where I grew up where, you know, teachers looked like me. You know, it was a real sheltered community that I think about it now. And I'm grateful that I was able to be in a sheltered community where I didn't have to worry about, you know, knocking my spirit, you know, telling me that, you know, I couldn't be or do this in my young childhood. So I'm happy that we're able to now express that this is it comes from unity, it comes from within, and you can actively participate in your own Black joy. And looking at your everyday experiences. I mean, you talked about earlier our hairstyles. I think about the Crown Act because we talked about this, that even you were not allowed to wear your hair a certain way. Even if you were in corporate, you couldn't wear your hair a certain way. And so even just, we say, you know, adjust your crown, queen, because our hair is something that is Black joy. You know, the things that we wear, you know, we don't look like an average corporate person sometimes, but that's our Black joy. That's expressing us. That's expressing our culture, our ethnicity. And so I think when we look at that we are actively doing this and we're actively doing it because that's who we are.
Absolutely.
It's not an act. This is who we are. So we're doing it because we want to show and be an example that you too are important.
You know, and I have to talk about that situation that happened to me. And I'm going to go there. Like you said, being in the position that I was in, I thought I should wear a certain thing, a certain, you know, the suit and whatever. Even I love to dress. You know me, I'm a fashionista, so I love to dress. But it was just to me in my mind, even with my hair, going back to my hair, I felt like I had to wear my hair a certain way. And I was on my way on vacation and I put braids in my hair. And when I came back, I had the braids in my hair. And I had a young lady come in who was a coworker, and she questioned my braids. She said, "Oh, your hair looks different." And I said, "Oh, you know, I did this, you know," and I love sharing culture. I love learning other people's culture, and I love sharing my culture. So I went to explain to her more about why I had my hair in braids and what. And she says, "Well, that took a long time." I said, "Well, it did take a little long time." But the thing that really rocked me and changed me that day was her comment to me was, "So now all you got to do is hose yourself down." Selah. But that moment, that very, very moment, freed me because I kept my braids in, and as you can see now, I've gone all natural.
Mm-hmm.
It freed me. My joy began to really. I realized that at that time I was suppressing my part of my joy by coming to try to pretend I was not really pretend, but to fit in. I guess that was, I guess what I supposed to look like. But that was really significant for me. That moment, and I let her know in a sense that that was something that really was offensive to me, and was hoping, we talked about a little bit after, but I think that was the bottom line for me was as a freeing for me, and I realized it brought back joy to me to be who I unapologetically am.
Well, you know what? Like you said, black joy can be freedom. It could be radical in terms of, making this declaration that we are choosing to be happy, that we are choosing that our spaces and how we want to be represented because we didn't always have that opportunity. When you go back in terms of I'm thinking about Aunt Jemima, which is no longer called Aunt Jemima Pancake Mix, and you
Exactly.
started to look at the trajectory of the images of how it started out, how she was looking to, cannibalistic with these teeth, and just,
Mm-hmm.
and then she got a perm, and everybody's like, Aunt Jemima has a perm now, and oh, now Aunt Jemima has pearls on, and so just looking at through that timeline of how she has changed, and
Yes.
how we are able to say this is who we are, this is what our contribution is to the world, is for we have no choice but to be ourselves. So when you see us at the family reunion, we have no choice but to be ourselves and be so happy to see the next generation of family members. When you see us doing the electric slide or whatever line dance song comes on, that is us saying that we don't care about any spectators watching us. We don't care about the wallflowers. We are being ourselves because we have the right to be ourselves, and
Absolutely.
we no longer want to subscribe to the smoke and mirrors, whatever you decide we are supposed to be. No, this is who we are. So if it's a wild and crazy color, so be it. If it's music that, of course we know the music, the whole universe listens to the music that we've created. But it really is about our lives. It's about us saying against all odds, against triumph, that we are here to pave that way and look forward throughout all the rough times, but we still are here. And everybody has a bad day, really. I mean, everybody has a bad day. I talk to myself when I have a bad day, like, listen, okay, how do you, uh, you know, change that around? Maybe go have a cup of tea or something. But so people do have bad days, but it is actively looking at who you are, and how your essence as a core is that you're choosing to be happy, period.
And also, I remember an incident I had. When you're talking about thinking about where you are in a state of mind or emotionally or whatever. I remember having an incident where I realized I could even change the atmosphere or the narrative as I walked into a room. And I decided I was going to bring the joy instead of the thing I was dealing with at the moment. I said, no, I'm going to bring the joy. And it completely changed the atmosphere. And so we have that magic, we have that love, we
It's
have that
contagious.
power that we can bring not only to our families, not only to a community, not only to our jobs, but to this world. I mean, our music. And we're going to talk about even poetry, poems. We just went to a wonderful celebration for Jupiter Hammer. I mean, talk about that just a little bit.
I mean, it was so amazing. It was on a wonderful fall sunny day at the Joseph Lloyd Manor estate that is owned by Preservation League, Preservation Long Island. And so we had Malik work. He recited Jupiter Hammond's poem, and it was so magical. If you know anything about Jupiter Hammond, he's the first published African American poet from Long Island that we see. His work is something that really digs deep and looks at the topic of slavery. But he also is able to pull out the essence of who we are, our people, even then. And so the magic of just being able to hear his written word performed by a magnificent artist,
Awesome.
it was just so awesome to just be in a space like that. So I will say, just being in a space like that, like you're saying, a feeling, an atmosphere, it is contagious. Just walk by somebody and smile. They'll smile at you.
Absolutely.
You walk by somebody and say,
Absolutely.
hello, have a good day. You don't have
Mhm.
to know them.
Mhm.
Um, and you'll change them right away. I mean, it
Absolutely.
happens to me sometimes when I'm rushing out of a store and somebody, and I'm trying to push my cart back and the guy will speak and I'm just like, oh, how are you? I'm great. Thank you. How are you? Fine. Thank you. But see, it can be contagious because it's a human connection too. But I think being in those spaces where we're able to celebrate who we are, and look at our life as who we are as a whole person and not just one part of us, I think is something that we have to work on the acceptance of, because it wasn't always accepted. But right now, we're unapologetically, we don't care if it's not
Absolutely.
accepted. We're
Absolutely.
making this active decision.
Absolutely, absolutely. I also was thinking about Langston Hughes, and I just want to say, like I said, we can come to have a sad situation, and I'm just going to share. I just had to come from a memorial service for my sister, but we end up seeing family that we hadn't seen in a while, but we end up deciding to meet for breakfast on a Sunday morning, and we went to this place called Bus Boys and Poets. This place was dedicated for Langston Hughes because he was a busboy and a poet. You talk about joy. You could not walk into that place without saying, "Oh my God." You had pictures of so many African American pictures. You had just portraits of people. Um, I'm trying to think of the main person I saw. I can't even think of who it was at this point. But even sitting down, and I went upstairs. They said they have poetry there, and they have live jazz there, and all you saw was just people walking around, smiling and being joyful. The music was wonderful, and it was about 15 of us had breakfast that morning. You talking about joy and laughter, and talking about old times and different things. It was just a wonderful, wonderful place to be. In spite of,
Yeah.
we could have, of course, it was a sort of could have been some sort of a sad time, but at the same time, we were able to think about her memory, think about the things she did, all the things she contributed, and then all the funny things we did. That was just joy, and that's the strength of us.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I absolutely, but even thinking of that, and I've already sent my condolences, and I prayed, that the healing of losing a loved one is very difficult and it takes time. But that is even looking at that situation. We have homegoing services.
Yes, homegoing.
Yeah, we don't wear black and we don't mourn. We're celebrating their life. And then if you have Christian beliefs, you're supposed to be living so you can live again.
Exactly.
And so I think about how we have even changed something as morbid as death, to be something of a celebration, because that's who we are, as a people.
Absolutely, absolutely. And it's funny you said about not wearing black. The colors they wanted us to wear was light lavender. That must have been her color that she liked. But like I said, it just, in spite of, it was just a high atmosphere in there. It was such a sweet atmosphere in that place that day, in spite of.
Yeah.
And the food was the bomb.
Of course, the food gotta be good.
But just you heard laughter, just like we're doing now. You heard laughter. It wasn't mourning, it wasn't screaming, it wasn't crying. I mean, it was sad that she's gone, but it was a joy. Like you said, it was a homegoing that was more than, having to think about, death.
Yeah.
Death is such a hard thing. All of us are going to go one day, but to celebrate it is a whole nother way of looking at it.
Yeah.
We're almost down to 2 minutes, but
Well, I will say that one thing about our hearts, they have the capacity. They have such great capacity to feel so many different emotions. And I would just think that if we continue to actively seek happiness, seek black joy, and look at the positive of life all the positive that life has to offer, in spite of, I think we will be better people. I think we will live longer, and maybe we'll be nicer to our neighbors. And so I think that this is something that everybody can practice, but for Black people who this has not been something that we've talked about in a larger sense, I think that it's time for us all to, as a society, come together collectively. Be happy. Don't worry. Be happy.
Yes, yes. And I think it's so important now, especially with sort of the tension that's in this country at this point. I remember walking out of CVS the other day, and this woman just, I helped her, I opened the door for her, and we just smiled. And before we know it, we were talking about the same thing, how we have to share love now. We have to really come together and really do what we have to do to change the atmosphere in this world. And we end up hugging. I didn't know this woman. She didn't know me. She was white, I'm Black. And that's the thing, another thing that we said to each other, that we have to come together and really stop this racism. And, I know we won't be able to stop it, but one by one, we can share love. One by one, we can show acts of kindness. And the last thing I'm going to read here to end this up is, how do we live in a world where you don't have to radically measure ourselves by someone else's tape? And in that space is the only space where joy can be found. When you're able to see you, love you, and celebrate you, regardless of who else may even exist. I mean, that's what else. I mean, what else can you say at this point? Is that seeing you and loving you and celebrating you. I celebrate you.
I celebrate you. And you know what? We can celebrate ourselves.
Yes.
As Mary J. Blige's song goes, I like when I see when I'm looking past the mirror.
Yes.
So I think that we can celebrate each other, but we have to, it starts with us.
Absolutely.
And let's celebrate ourselves and each other.
So thank you so much again for being on my show. This is Black Joy with Dr. Georgette Grier-Key. And my name is Brenda Simmons. And I want you to also have a wonderful day and get your joy.